Multi-broadcast. It is Eric Von Wade. We've got a lot of stuff planned for you, and we're going to have more and more content coming in this new show. Today I thought we'd talk about one of the issues I've cut my teeth on. I'm sure you cut your teeth on numerous times. It is the hottest debate going right now, and that is gun control. Does it work? And now it seems that there is a movement afoot getting very young people and to college age to march on Washington, D.C. That's the big plan. And of course they will, because they haven't had to have all the other obligations the rest of us deal with at this particular point in time. I can tell you from firsthand experience that the reality of life, especially when you have these grand ideas about starting a new business and end up starting 3 new businesses, becomes cumbersome, to say the least. So yes, I mean, my day is crammed full of stuff. I have not had a chance to do half of the things that need to get done. So what we're doing right now, kind of an experiment, we are simulcasting both on YouTube and on, I say we, that would be me and the happy little electron in my pocket maybe, but we're broadcasting on YouTube and Facebook Live. I'm doing Facebook Live via the laptop, and of course doing YouTube here on the phone. We're going to have a good friend of mine, Pratt Lathrop, joining me in a little bit. He's got the IT for you and me. Stuff that explains why it matters, because I can tell you, unless you already deal with IT, you have a business in which you've engaged IT or had something horrible happen, you probably glaze over a little bit when somebody says, you know, internet security. I'm probably not the only person that has at a time or two allowed the expiration on the virus protection stuff to expire, which is not a good thing. And the fear that motivates us to take these actions a little bit more seriously is based in the reality that we just don't know, and ignorance is bliss. But if you're following me on Facebook Live or you're watching this on Facebook Live, please join, search Eric Von Wade on YouTube, and then click subscribe and the little bell next to it. That way we can build in this automatic notification like we have had before. And share this live broadcast anywhere that you have it, please. I would definitely appreciate that. If you have not liked my Tuxedo Facebook page, please do that. And let us know. Now, it says I have a very bad connection on the Wi-Fi here, which is sad, because I should be able to do both of these things without having any trouble. And maybe the laptop is taking precedence. If I move it away from the other, maybe it'll do a bit better. But now I'm looking at 2 different cameras: camera A, camera B, camera A, camera B, A, B, A. And so if I'm not looking at you, I apologize. If I'm trying to defer to the YouTube, because I gotta tell you, good morning, Patricia Cruz, and good morning everybody else who's joined in. I appreciate you guys sharing this and following my YouTube channel on YouTube. It's real easy. You go to YouTube, you search Eric Von Wade, you click subscribe, and the little bell next to it. Then you're good to go. Logan, on air. Good to have you, man. You were right, and so was everybody else a long time ago. YouTube is really the way to go. I spent the last couple of weeks, in addition to being overwhelmed with work, I have inundated myself with the research necessary to make a lucrative effort out of the YouTube thing. Soon, I will now have the gear. It wasn't that complicated, but unless you know how to do it, you don't know how to do it, where we can utilize my high-speed Sony AR-872, which of course you can find one of your own, of a different version or whichever you like over there at Markable Electronics. And so I'm going to have video from that, which will be better than this, what you're seeing, which is from the laptop. The cameras on the laptop, rarely good unless you go way all out. And then, of course, video camera on my phone is probably one of the most advanced that you're going to find on a phone, but it's still not like a Zeiss coating on a 50mm lens and what that'll do. So I should have that probably by tomorrow if I have time to work it out. But I'm telling you, be prepared to be busy if you want to be successful. Unlike you've ever been busy before. I mean, literally, you have to also condition yourself not to get upset. And it's hard to do these days when, if you're from Texas and you've ever done any hunting or you have a familiarization with firearms and you're not part of some emotional agenda, then it becomes very frustrating to hear some of the things that we've heard said lately about firearms, the NRA. And it's a fatal mistake to our advantage, those of us who believe in the Second Amendment and realize that it doesn't matter what the firearm looks like or how many rounds it can hold. If you have people who have issues, problems that are homicidal in nature, guess what they're going to do? They're going to find a way to kill people. And in every single instance, the absurdity would humiliate me, especially if I was a leader with any prominence, and especially if I was a president throughout the last 30 years of my life. I would be embarrassed to have agendized, completely unrelated instances as a means to advance a gun control agenda. And in the end, even the people who claim victory, all they've really done is create more cost and burden for the people who are not part of the problem and not done anything to stop it, starting with the Oklahoma City bombing. And I would have thought we would have learned something from that. Timothy McVeigh had a gun. There's no doubt about it. He liked guns. He was in the military. He had conspirators, some debate, that liked guns. But he didn't use a gun to cause the misery in the Oklahoma City bombing. He used fertilizer. And they did some things that, make fertilizer more traceable, which was never part of the problem to begin with anyway. In all honesty, I mean, we knew Timothy McVeigh was a suspect right off the bat, within a few hours. So I don't know that we really advanced anything, but whatever, fertilizer is not constitutionally protected. It's a bunch of crap if you ask me. So, pun intended. The reality is we had Bill Clinton pushing an assault weapons ban, and I to this day don't understand. How is it the media doesn't point out? That would be like me saying, I'm going to use this earthquake that just happened as a reason to pass a tax increase on carrots. That still would be more connected. That would still be more connected. I go up and I kick a Boy Scout in the shin, and they ask why I did that, and I said, because the sun came up today. And that little SOB is the reason why we need to kick Boy Scouts in the shin. It's absurd. Granted, I should think these analogies out a bit more carefully instead of just going on a whim, but you get the point. Like, what point? There's no connection. There was no connection. It was a bombing. We all called it that. They didn't call it the Oklahoma City gunning. And then, okay, so that was the worst of the examples. We passed an assault weapons ban. Bill Clinton himself gave acknowledgement that it was such a fatal mistake. And the reason why it's a mistake in every instance and people fall victim to it is because of this. It's because the media makes it appear that the majority of people agree with this desire to pass gun control. That's the reason why. There's a disconnect that people think they're on the most popular side, and it creates more frustration, much like what happened in the 1960s with the hippie movement. And I'm going to fix this camera situation for us so that maybe we can look at the same lens or in that same general direction. Oh gosh, got to level that. That is horrible. I'm having to reach around my laptop right now. I'm not just flexing for the fun of it. Not to say that I wouldn't. I'm not above that at all, but that's not what I'm doing right now. So Pratt Lathrop will be joining us in just a little bit, and this is the live aspect of fun video and live stuff that is, I like doing live because it's real, but it also means that we have a little Blair Witch Project scenario going on every now and then. I think that's fairly level, and man, why didn't I think of that sooner? Problem solved. Well, not exactly, but almost. So Bill Clinton said, you know what, he could have gotten so much more done that he wanted to get done. And this is not just for Democrats a message. This is for everybody to learn from this. Pushing an emotional agenda above logic and common sense is not always in your best interest. Because you may not always get exactly what you want. Well, you may get what you want, but you may not get what you need. If I could quote a popular rock and roll song there from the poor man's... never mind. We'll get into that at another issue. But the point is, and primarily, Bill Clinton was having to deal with a Congress overwhelmingly opposed to him, and he ushered in the greatest change in political party in American politics in history. The Republicans won control, not took control, won control of Congress in an election night that blew me away as a young college Republican. Now, I'm a conservative, but I'm also one of those that has a live and let live type of philosophy to my conservatism. I believe our country cannot be really described as libertarian, liberal, or conservative. Quite honestly, it is a unique creation by some people who spent a lot of time making compromises and who were deep philosophical individuals in both life and liberty and freedoms, and they came from a perspective that most of us, while we didn't really, we don't have any way to truly relate because we've not lived in a time. If you're a citizen of the United States and have never been a citizen of anything else, never lived anywhere else, you have no idea what it's like to be questioned and not have the freedom that we do. You think you're angry and frustrated now. Wait till you live somewhere where you have enormous amounts of trouble. It's problematic all the way around. And let's see, Tom Sines, appreciate you joining us. The media does the same for everything. Look at them and their view of Mr. Trump before he got elected. You're right. The reason why it's such a surprise is because there's a bias in the media, and that bias in the media is, something that shapes, it's so ubiquitous, it shapes our opinion of things unrealistically. So Bill Clinton learned his lesson after the fact. His first midterm election, Republicans dominated to such an extreme degree that he was forced to have to make compromises to the things that he wanted to have done. Not only that, but if you look at it even a little bit closer, every time that we have seen someone take this position of, the NRA is an alien third entity in our political society, then they find out that it represents millions of Americans. And the reality is that when you have millions of Americans who are being demonized by people who don't know they're demonizing voters, they're running off support for anything they want to have done, which they would have trouble with anyway. But this whole, if politicians support the NRA, then vote them out. You dummies. This is why you're called kids. Because you're not very smart. You don't know and haven't done the research as to who the NRA is. And unlike a lot of your other liberal organizations, the NRA takes a poll from all of their members to decide which platform positions to take. They don't do this by a board like so many of the others in which there's no unions and the rest. They don't poll all their members to decide where they're going to stand on an issue. They have a small group of people who are very politically agendized, and they decide for everybody else, and then that message is sold to everyone else. And NRA does extensive mail-outs, pollings, phone calls to determine what their members want to have. And they try to educate them. They give you references and sources. I just re-upped my membership. Glad that I did. I can't wait to get my American Rifleman here at the offices of the Cactus Law Firm, Social Media Moguls, Armory Outfitters USA, Eric Von Wade Photography, and Wade.com Inc. I asked if I could put that on the door, and they said no, because you can't repaint the walls and it would take that much space. I said, well, can I write it in crayon? I think it'd be kind of cool. And I'm waiting back on opinion from that. But I got my buddy Pratt Lathrop with me this morning, and I came up with a cheesy title for this, the first thing, Pratt. Yeah. Pratt is an IT genius, and I've aligned this. You see how I've done this with so the cameras are in line with it, so you can kind of look in the same general direction. Soon this should be solved. But yes, for some reason, I think we may have to up the Wi-Fi. But this is the guy to talk to. If you want to, first, I met this guy on a retreat. Can I tell him where I met you?
Do it.
All right. Journey to Damascus. I didn't know what it was. I had a friend of mine that I think was just primarily because he had been hornswoggled into it, was going to make sure and spread the. But no, honestly, anybody who's ever gone through it has loved that experience. It's like a 3-day retreat, right? About 3 days or so.
3 days, yeah.
And the great thing about it is you get a chance to eat like you've never had. My fear was I was going to be hungry. I was like, I eat a lot of food. Most people don't eat as much as me. And like right now, I haven't been working out. I still eat more food than most people. But when I'm working out, I consume large quantities of food. And no, I was full the whole time. Yeah, full the whole time.
Keep you stuffed.
My gosh.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, not only that, but you met some of the best people. Now, Journey to Damascus is Catholic-based, I think.
Yes.
And they have a Walk to Emmaus, which is Protestant. Although, being a Protestant myself, I didn't notice any difference. But I'll tell you one thing that came out of it that was fantastic was you helped to reinforce something that I think is already a good trend in American society, and that different denominations are not fighting amongst each other as much or at all for the most part any longer. Everybody has their own opinion, certainly. You'll get, I'm sure, Lutherans that would debate Baptists and that would debate Catholics of whatever the principles. But nobody's marching or protesting the other person maybe as you had in the 60s and before, or even 70s. Claiming the others are going to hell, and they've realized, I think, also that, look, you got a whole lot more in common than you have difference, and in addition to that, the rest of the world doesn't like Christianity at all. Even in our own country, we're dealing with that same thing. I was talking about with the media, and that you get this perception that somehow most everybody is opposed to saying Merry Christmas, or that the majority of people in this country are anti-prayer in public. That's really not the case. What we do have is a bunch of people that have kind of acquiesced or may verbally show support for not having any of this because constitutionally they want to be consistent. And I'm not saying anything negative against people. That's a great sentimentality to have. But the problem is where I think many people are giving into it because we have this perception that it's so overwhelmingly, ubiquitously popular as that's the opinion to have. And we're being given a false sense of things. And that's part of where media influence comes in.
I think a lot of it is sort of a case of the vocal minority against the silent majority.
Well, and that's it.
It leads to that perception that there's more of a support than there really is.
I had said that after Nixon, that the silent majority was dead, or not dead, but not existent anymore. I was incorrect. They're just lazier than they used to be, and that's just the truth. They don't show up as often, and in most cases, they show up after the fact. So, 1992 turned it a little bit on when it comes to the heat of the silent majority. Here's what 1992. I had people for weeks coming up to me, clearly not paying attention to the news. Did that actually pass? That's all. I didn't think that was going to pass. Well, now people's false sense of security, now they have to pay attention to what's going on, which is good.
Right.
But they still a little bit reactive. The conservative majority in this country is very silent and lazy now, but they have become a little more proactive because they've been stung if they've been voting since 1992. Right. Now, of course, we have that tendency of fear of slipping back. There's going to be a moment where we don't pay attention, and here it comes. Vigilance is really the only way you're going to protect your freedoms, much like security when it comes to the internet and other such good things like that. So we're going to talk about that in just a second, too. I was starting all this by saying, Pratt, I met you. How many years ago was that? Time flies by fast.
Man, it's been a while.
You didn't have any gray hair then.
No.
Neither did I.
No, yeah.
And this is before I started working out.
Even we were young and good looking.
Yeah. And I can impress everybody with this neck trick I can do, a stupid human trick, which the fear that came over his face is, you're not going to do that, are you? Not now. Nobody will watch your channel ever again. And I can do it for you, but you're going to have to wait. But that'll be the big key. Right for it. So it was even incorporated into a puppet show, if I remember, at one point in time. But it's a 3-day retreat, and I don't want to spoil it for you because a lot of what makes it awesome are some of the things you just don't expect. But it's very well put together. The Catholic Diocese, I think, sponsors it here. No,
it's supported by the Catholic Diocese, but I'm not exactly sure to what degree they're involved.
Yes, yeah.
Not exactly sure to what degree they're involved specifically.
I mean, it's at the Catholic high school, right? St. John Paul II.
No, there's another retreat center now that's been built.
Oh, it's been that long.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to add this to the tags that I see. So I did not know there's a new retreat center. But you're thinking, I don't have 3 days. Yeah. You do, because it's like, okay, if you were in the military, you probably would say boot camp was a miserable experience, but you would never trade that kind of thing again. I mean, you're glad you did it, right? So same thing with this, but even more so. And it's a bonding. So, Pratt, did you do IT back then? I don't even remember.
Yeah, I had just come back and started my business.
All right. So. Yeah. And were you married at the time?
No.
No. Now you're married.
I was married and 2 kids now.
You got 20 kids? 2 kids. 2 kids. Yeah.
Feels like 20.
Yeah. No. They'll wear on you. Yeah. But no, you got a great looking family. And so I really hadn't had a chance to get caught up with Pratt in a while until you moved in. Well, I moved into the building you were already in. Yeah. So then, hey, Wilson Plaza building. And I think I'm going to talk to him today about trading some photos for a prime parking spot I came by.
Oh, there you go.
I'm parking on the top level, which is great for taking pictures. But then you got to walk down 2 flights before you get to the elevator, then go down the elevator, then come up. I need a prime parking spot.
I'd expect you to just rappel off the side and be done with it.
I would do this,
but would be your thing.
Here's the deal. Apparently now, there's a problem with being likable. There is a problem with being approachable. That the police feel comfortable in approaching you about everything as well, too. We got the police department right next door.
Yeah.
Instead of going, that guy looks grumpy, he probably shouldn't be rappelling off the side of that building. I'm sure there's some law against it, but I don't want to bother him because it's going to be a problem. Instead, hey, that guy looks happy. We'll ask him anything, So before you know it, I'd be in trouble, and then I'd be even later than normal. So we can't. I don't know. You know what though? I could rappel like a ninja. That would not make anybody scared
Oh,
at
sure.
all. That would just
dress
all black,
cover
right?
your face.
Samurai sword over the back. That's the
Done.
only thing that might save me. No samurai sword, you're a terrorist. Samurai sword, you're like a weirdo,
Yeah.
nerdy guy that's a little too obsessed with ninjas. Chinese stars, now I'm not going to get shot. They're going to go, this guy's a doofus. Because there's no real ninjas running around anymore.
I guess so, but...
On a side note, too, by the way, ninjas, real ninjas, didn't call themselves ninjas, one, not ubiquitously, two, they did not dress all black. That's something Hollywood kind of came up with. They might have done it if they were commando ninjas doing something at night specific. The rest of the time, ninjas dress like everybody else because they didn't want us to be secret. It's kind of imagine you go into Japan, you have these Shogun warriors, all this color, white robes, and then there's these guys with black masks running around and tabby toe. I mean, you'd kind of stand out.
Yeah.
So it's like people who buy camo for the apocalypse or some sort of end of world scenario. Not every normal person is going to be walking around. I mean, how many people do you see walking down the street wearing camo now? Not very many. You kind of stand out.
Right.
So, you know, you better have some tactical, normal-looking clothes, which I can refer you to some. I've got great... the clothes basically that operators wear, mercs. It's a cool term for mercenaries, you know. Anyway, so stuff like that. They're normal colors, but earth tones, and... that looks a lot better if you're gonna, you know, just if you were wondering. I know that might have been on somebody's list today. Let me get survival stuff for the apocalypse.
There's actually some really good civilian-looking clothes that actually do a great job of concealing what you're carrying.
In fact, well, even if you don't want to conceal them, some stuff, I'm just saying, Under Armour, is some of my favorite. And I'll say this to Under Armour as well. Shameless plug, I love them. If you ever make a business suit, you will make another $1 billion. An Under Armour heat gear business suit. Think about that. I mean, you probably would want to have Under Armour really big on it, be a little cheesy maybe, but you could have it, you know, on the collar or whatever. But you make a business suit so people stay cool. The Middle East in particular, they'll be buying it out the wazoo. And here, South Texas, Corpus Christi, I would definitely be doing that. I mean, we went from frigid cold to it's 71 degrees now and going to get warmer today. By the way, thanks for all the Facebook people who are tuning in. Make it a point. This is live. We're going to do this daily. This Pratt Lathrop, great guy all the way around. He's going to talk to you about some stuff that usually makes you glaze over. And that's the reason why I brought him on. I thought, well, because it's important. I know theoretically it's important, but internet security, IT, for a lot of people, including myself, who need it but don't realize it, we think it's more like an expensive life insurance policy. Yeah, we don't want our loved ones to have to spend a bunch of money taking care of us, but we're going to be dead. What difference does it make to us? And then soon they'll be dead. So whatever problems we caused aren't going to be permanent. You know, I mean, that's kind of our thought. That's not really the way that is, though. Life can get a lot more difficult unnecessarily. But Holly Lewis, good to have you. Jane Ritter, appreciate it. We'll get back to talking a little bit more about gun control, how it doesn't work. The statistics show it doesn't work. We've had numerous people that have tried everything you can imagine to tweak it or argue it. This argument, I'm going to wrap this up. We'll go to the IT. It's very simple. It's like this. One, you've got a bunch of kids thinking that they can run the country. And I don't want to discourage any interest in politics at all. But the arrogance of that has fallen on its face time and time again. And ever since, what was it, which NBC, ABC, CBS, one of the three decided they were going to have Kid Nation, a reality show in which children ran the government and made decisions and all the rest of that kind of stuff. It lasted like 3 episodes, and that was it. Right. It's because they don't have sense to know what is really going to work. They don't have any practical experience. And young people in college should. There was a time when they did, when you already were supposed to be married and have 6 kids by that time. Life brings responsibility on you, but they just don't. And they're doing it dramatic. And I gave an A+ on delivery. I mean, the delivery of the speech from whoever their spokesman was over the weekend, great job. I even went so far as to throw that very, intense, at this point, you're either with us or against us, which I thought, how ironic. Only a few years ago, George W. Bush said that about our war on terror. The political left, the same people supporting, encouraging, and being opportunists in this situation, utilizing the emotions of the youth to advance their dream and, I would say, lustful wanton of gun control. they're contradicting themselves. I mean, this is going to be quickly coming back. The media should be throwing this back at them. Wait a minute. I thought, we already determined that was a bad thing. We beat up on George W. Bush for saying this because it was they compared him to Darth Vader at the time. There was a Star Wars episode that was out, and how horrible that was. Now, it's okay if they're saying it for this, and, demonizing the NRA as if the NRA is not the NRA's positions, and it's made up of millions of Americans. Gun-owning Americans who have an opposite opinion that these people from the left and these youth do, that somehow taking guns away is going to make things set. But how are they going to do it? If you're going to use an incident to advance an agenda, well, then tell me how this lunatic that engaged in this shooting was going to be stopped or prevented from having a firearm by, I haven't heard him mention a legislation yet, a piece of what it would do this. We're going to make this. The gun show loophole, anything, yeah.
It can't happen. And even if you legitimize that or legalize all of that, these same actors are just going to go find a weapon illegally.
And the biggest issue is ignorance. But I'll tell you this: there's a biblical verse about if you're doing good and right, and people who try to stop you, or impede you, or hinder you, or cause you to fail, will actually be in the long run helping you. And I say this, and I've seen it happen enough times that I have no doubt that's actually true. It gives you a great degree of confidence and a reduction in your stress if you truly believe this. But you have to see it, I guess, in many instances, or there's a whole lot of faith in that in some way. But it helps to have seen it. I've seen it repeated so many times in my own life. I don't doubt it at all anymore. If I know I'm doing right, somebody's trying to screw stuff up for me, it will come back to help me and hurt them. And maybe not immediately. In the short term, there may be some embarrassing, stinging little situation, but if you look back on it, and if that hadn't happened, this wouldn't happen, that wouldn't happen. If Barack Obama had not, and enlisted many other people who were either honestly believing his statements or, as we know, dishonestly repeating the claims that he wasn't interested in gun control, and everybody kept saying, second term, he's going to pass his... Yeah. Well, he tried to do all that, and the fear of that, and what we'd seen come before, has created a saturation of firearms that is well greater than anything that existed before they started this agenda. So they've worked against themselves in one. But secondly, now you have a number of people who went out and purchased something because they thought, I maybe don't think I have a need for it now, but I might in the future, and I don't want to not be able to have one. So they went and bought it, which means a lot of those people went and shot it. And then all of a sudden, now they see, it's like throwing darts. Maybe it doesn't look that exciting, especially if you're used to extreme sports, until you start trying to throw darts and you learn the technique and all of a sudden it's a lot of fun. The same thing with firearms, and all of the rhetoric and the extreme demonization of them is great. You can throw all that emotion out all you want. That works for a short period of time. The long-term impact is logical, and it's steady and it's calm. So don't be part of the problem in going out and stop repeating cliches. That would be my recommendation for everybody. Stop repeating cliches. For one, I don't care which side you're on. I've heard it so many times that you're hurting me because it bores me, and then I'm not as creative as I normally would be. So think of me as if nothing else, but think of yourself as well. Forget who it is you're arguing against. Take this to the bank. Ignore the person's position and whether or not you're going to change it, or how ridiculous it was that they said this or that. Everybody's like you. Just because somebody says the grass is purple doesn't mean they're not going to look out there and go, it's not purple. So don't fear something so wrong being said, because if it were true, it would mean the end of what you believe in. Stop thinking about that. What you should realize and consider is that there's always somebody else listening to what's being said, and they're not vocalizing it. They're not jumping in the argument. They're not a peanut gallery even. And you want to maintain a presentation that would be most persuasive to them. That's the mindset you should have. Don't worry, you're never going to change for the most part. I've done it, but it's been over 23 years in like 2 instances.
Yeah.
So, and that's talking to thousands and thousands of people. You're not going to change anybody's opinion. So think about who that you're debating. But somebody else out there isn't speaking because they're considering.
Right. They're on the fence.
And if you act in a way punitive to the person's idiocy or stupidity or moronic comments or personal attacks, you're just discrediting yourself to their same level, and now you're equal. You rise above that. They make personal attacks. They engage in name calling. Dissect that in your response. Identify it. And then present your point. That's the best tactic, and I can tell you, if you can maintain your control of your emotions and make those arguments, you will be far more persuasive than the people who have an agenda that doesn't have logic at its core. This whole thing is about emotion, and I say this as we wrap it all up. One, gun control is proven never to work. In fact, everywhere where they've implemented it, they've had higher crimes. The people who are still advocating gun control have to go to great lengths of stretching possibilities and imaginations or explanations to try to create that as as something that still it's the gun lobby's fault or it's the NRA's fault. We can go into that on another occasion as well. But if they can't tell you what piece of legislation is being argued at this point that would have stopped the shooting, the school shooting, they have no credibility. Two, what we do see each time is that somebody with a mental illness or somebody that has had issues has been reported to some level of authority, and somebody didn't communicate that or didn't follow up. In almost every single instance, that's what we have. And again, in this one, we have the FBI, who had a red flag by anybody's consideration of a red flag, and somebody was too apathetic with, you got to realize there's lots of fake calls that come in, lots of overly paranoid people, but this is one of those that really does rise above, having seen or at least examined the transcript of what they had been notified. Somebody was really concerned. They had an individual, this guy had been in trouble with the law before. It's not like there wasn't information about him. And if the FBI cannot, once again, follow through on enforcing the laws that we have, how is making a new law before you correct these other issues going to make us any safer? I don't see any logical connection whatsoever. So you can send your kids to summer camp or you can send them to a March on Washington, but I think they get a lot more benefit out of some summer camp, because this March on Washington is a great way of humiliating yourself by not having thought this through. They've got the emotional presentation down, great, pick great spokespeople for it. But the argument is as weak as it would be for the adults because they haven't thought it through. But instead, now we're running kids out up front. You embarrass yourself. We'll see how it goes. Maybe this, everybody loves children involved. And how can you say no to the children? Well, same way you say no to children
all the time.
when they try to take money out of your wallet while you're asleep or whatever else it is.
Yeah.
It's like when you've sacrificed and worked like the rest of the people who are tax-paying, adults and Americans and served your country and done a few other things, then you have real credibility, but you also have in many cases, a little bit different perspective. And think this through, people. Don't, on whatever side of the issue it is, think it through, challenge the position that you have so you don't do what so many others do. Get all aerated. I've had so many people call me up angry, and in their minds what they were going to say sounded like it was such a stick and a dig, and they forgot one obvious thing. And then I remember it and bring it up. And then they hate me and go around like, Eric Von Wade is evil. But actually that helps me because people then want to see, how evil is he?
What's he doing that's so bad?
He's so sexy. I mean, evil, that's what they say. And then they find out. Pratt, though, here's the thing, and good morning, Mark Garcia and Connie Cadena. I appreciate it. Connie Cadena is one of those high-speed, low-drag, Incarnate Word Academy, officials. I think she's like the supreme chairman of the presidency of children or something. So it's an important position. I mean,
yeah.
She looks good, though.
Yeah.
And Mark, I appreciate you tuning in as well. But Pratt, here's the thing. When you say IT, I think of first Stephen King, and then you go, that's not what I do. It's not it. Who could live in it? Who could have that much excitement? And, was it Penny something or other was the clown?
Pennywise.
Pennywise, yes. But when IT is thrown out there, it covers a lot of stuff, actually.
Very broad and very deep.
And it stands for Intelligence Terrestrial.
Almost.
No.
Almost.
But
it's information technology.
Dang it.
Which
Close.
is a really fancy word for anything computery, right? So that's your servers, your laptops, your desktops.
Is that an official term? Because if it's not, it should be computery. I like that.
Yeah.
Computery. Yeah.
Trademark that.
Okay. So you can specialize in different areas of IT, clearly, right?
Right.
I specialize in saying it.
There you go.
Nobody wants to pay you for that.
It's an area.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's I can talk the talk. I know how it works. As I've learned, though, there's so much more education and time that goes into it. Like, I get the idea of, all right, Pratt drinks water and he's hydrated. But now explain the biological process that goes on, and if he's not hydrated, what do you do to adjust it? That might be the best analogy in IT. Like, some people get it, but there's a lot of people that don't get it. We know IT is a department over here where we hear a slight hum, and there's guys in there
to keep me from doing what I want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we're paying for this stuff, but you don't see the enemy. It would be like we fight wars that we win that have everything at risk. Your life, your family. You could be hair-lipped, cross-eyed, and raped because of it. You know, whatever. But you're not, and you're protected, but you never see the people who do it, the battle, or the victory. And so, therefore, I think that's where the disconnect is. It's like you win a war that you didn't even see start, didn't hear about it, no gunshots, no explosions, but there was stuff, atomic going on. Yeah. Like the first thing that, and this is me, like, okay, it's not the way right now, so let me just let all the virus people know. But let's say that, I had let my subscription to whatever they set you up with when you first get your computer expire.
Right.
For like 600 days. And so I haven't seen a problem. What do I need a firewall security for?
So I think an important place to start is understanding kind of what the different what we call attack vectors, where the different angles of attack are.
Okay.
So if we take a step back from that analogy for 1 second, and understand that there are, I guess, a couple of broad areas. One is we look at protecting attacks from outside the network. People that don't have legitimate authorization to have access to our equipment. Okay. Whether it's your home computer, whether it's a business. I tend to talk in terms of business, but the same concepts apply for homes.
I'm going to dumb it down just a little bit, real quick. Hold that thought, because I know this is something the concept of may be lost. You see it on your, whatever, you buy a computer anywhere, you have network settings, okay? But what constitutes a full network? Because, I know we have people, and this is what I think of. Small business, very small business. You've got 2, 3, maybe just 1 employee, maybe it's just yourself. But anywhere between 1 and, let's say, 10 employees. That covers a lot of businesses that make up the bulk of everywhere.
Small business.
Right. By definition, small business go up to 50 people.
Yeah.
To me, that seems like a medium business, but it's not. Medium business is a whole other realm of stuff that we would probably call large business. But so you have a network. Let's say you got 2 people working there, right?
Right.
You still have a network.
You still got a network.
What is your network?
So the network consists of all the hardware that talks to each other and gets you connected to each other and to the internet. So,
and it could be hardwired
or wireless.
Right.
Your computer that you're working on is part of your network. The printer is part of your network.
This is a network going on.
What we've got going on is a little network here. Okay. The router, your firewall, these switches, servers, your phones can be part of your network. Your smartwatches, right? Your Apple Watches, your Android-based watches, all of these things are part of your computer network. Anytime you've got any 2 pieces of hardware talking to each other in any way, shape, or form, they're networked.
Okay. And you can deal with all that, right?
Yes.
All right. Yeah. See, now that's exciting because where we'll go with this, and we're going to have Pratt on a regular basis, just so you know, not only are we going to talk to you about what's important, but we're also going to talk to you about some things like how do you make the most of all you can do? I don't think most people take the full power of what they have in their systems and put it to use. You got all sorts of ideas, though. I know, because I'm picking his brain all the time. And also what this does for me is it gives me an opportunity to ask all the stuff I want to know, and they can't go anywhere. So it's awesome. But it's stuff you would probably want to know, too. Please share this live broadcast. And also, I'm deferring to the YouTube. I should be looking at the YouTube little camera over there for the time being. But I appreciate those of you like David Eden. And by the way, it looks like... new people on YouTube, which is great. Subscribers, please subscribe. Click the little bell on my YouTube channel. That's where I'm going to be moving a lot of stuff to. And we'll simulcast on Facebook. But Facebook is going to do everything they can to suppress it. Once I hit that 7,700 viewers on a single show, they wanted me to start paying for, I don't know what it would cost to get to there, but it was so early in the process, I wasn't prepared to pay for it. And we'll still do it, and I'll be spending some money somewhere on Facebook. But the fact that if you mention firearms or you have a political opinion like the Second Amendment, you can see the suppression that begins in which they are not sharing it. So you sharing it is highly dependent. In fact, in most cases, so I wonder where, I'm sure they can get to the point where you won't even be able to go to somebody's page and see things they don't want you to see. But as it stands now, if you click on where it says that we're friends on my Facebook page and see first, you give me a little gold star, see first, then you will always be notified when I post up. Now, keep in mind that can get hectic if you post a whole bunch. I do my best in due diligence only to post once or twice a day at most. And really once a day is kind of my standard. So you'll only get one notification from me, but that means that's added to others that you may get as well. But that's something that you can do in order to ensure that you see more of the people's notifications and in your newsfeed that you want. And I think you can even adjust it where you don't have to hear the little ding thing. But Pratt will have more opportunity to talk to you. We're going to get him set up with a YouTube channel as well. So if you have more questions or more involved stuff than what we have here on this show on Tuesdays, then you can do that. I appreciate everybody giving me the thumbs up. And if you share this, I got a big hug for you. And a decent hug, like, the hug. Pat on the back, sort of a thing. Or we'll just give you the power to the Facebook people. So, but you're helping people because we're going to have things that teach you how to do stuff you need to know how to do, inform you about stuff, and also special deals. Because if you're watching this, I appreciate it, and I always like to take care of friends. And I want to say thanks to everybody who came out, by the way, to the Alameen Shrine Center, where I had Armory Outfitters USA doing an exhibition there. I met some of the greatest people. People have been following me my entire 24 years in broadcasting. And they were incredibly accommodating. And for such a small show, it was incredibly lucrative. Good. It was very good. It was like getting the name out, probably better. It's like word of mouth, but face to face, and people are coming through. And I had a special order even made. It was all sorts of cool stuff. So it was good, and we'll be doing another. If there's a space open, there's another expo coming up this weekend, the Saxit, at the Robstown Richard Borchard Regional Fairgrounds. But it was full 3 months ago. So I've been on a waiting list. So if somebody wants to give up a table or
just set up right outside the building.
You could.
Bring your own
I mean, I'd want to get permission and everything, because I don't want to look like a lunatic. Hey, you want to buy a knife? But yeah, I mean, I would love to be at that show. That'd be great. If not, there's one in San Antonio, one in Austin. But again, I'm on a waiting list for all that stuff. So if you're not going to make it, let me know. I'll take your table. I really would like two, because I've got a big bulk of inventory coming in this week. So again, if you like cutlery, Damascus steel, fine things like that, soon to some leather jackets. I'll be wearing a leather jacket all the time, kind of like the Russian mob.
Nice.
I mean, all the time. We have one for hot weather, one for cold weather. Leather pants.
Hot weather leather jacket.
Yes, it's. I'm designing it.
Is that?
But yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can manufacture with this partnership and manufacturing anything you want. Not yet laptops, cell phones, things like that. But clothing, garments. We're like the Schmata district. Which is Yiddish term for clothing district in New York, which is not what it used to be, but nonetheless. Back to this issue. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit. But talking about IT, I'm definitely going to be picking his brain because I've got now an e-commerce element to almost everything that I'm doing. And if you're going to do that, you need to make sure that you have protection. And it's not just, everybody thinks we're protecting ourselves from Matthew Broderick, hacking into the NORAD computer sort of a thing, which was overly simplistic even in the day, but not too far off. I mean, the technology wasn't that complicated. I mean, you could Ferris Bueller's Day Off your report card a little bit in some cases when schools erroneously made this decision to invest in all this technology because it was available, assuming that, I mean, we went through a period where we bought a bunch of computers for ridiculous amounts of taxpayer dollars and just had kids doing the same stuff they were doing on pen and paper on a computer. That doesn't, in and of itself, make you any smarter. In fact, we saw grades slipping a bit, and we were spending all this money in places. Yeah. Now, when the software became available, in which new teaching techniques and methods and whatnot were there, well, we saw a benefit from it. But we were a good 10 years probably ahead of the curve in a lot of that across the country. And so you don't want to waste money just buying stuff. And there's so many things. If you don't have somebody like yourself who knows the ins and outs of this, you have to have your own personal guru you go to. This is where Pratt Lathrop comes in. I can go to Pratt and go, hey, what do you think about this? He goes, he either has an answer, he goes, I don't know, let me look at it. He goes, well, this maybe not be the best thing for you. It looks good, it's really colorful, but the one that performs the best is this. And I know because I've used them, and that makes a difference. For the rest of us, we're looking at packages on the outside, or depending upon some guy in a big box store or kid who's in school repeating the same talking points that somebody else orally heard somebody else repeat. Nobody's used it or knows on the inside. There's a few, but I mean that's what we're dealing with. So I like having somebody I can go to, and I appreciate you, James, Anthony, Albert, Davis. It's one hell of a name there, by the way, too. Shared the feed. I appreciate that, and please, if you don't have a YouTube channel, get one or just subscribe. And it's a good thing to have. And hit the red subscribe on any one of my videos and the little bell next to it. Then every time I go live or I post a video, you'll know. I'm going to get a haircut soon. I just realized my hair is ridiculously long. But it's been cold. I'm wearing a cowboy hat. And I don't know if I want to go for that flock of seagulls look quite yet. So I need to get a haircut. It's long and luxurious. Yeah, I did that in the Army.
Go back to the Army days, yeah.
Here's the problem. I've used my head to hammer nails, apparently, or something in my childhood. I got so many scars, and, I mean, up here, apparently, was the helmet of my youth. I don't know, but, I mean, good Lord. In fact, everybody said when in boot camp, nobody really sees you before you get the haircut. They don't remember you.
Right.
Weeks into it, somebody looked at a picture of me from before. They go, "Dang, Von Wade, you were actually good looking with hair." Right then, it still echoes. Not doing the ball thing.
The ball
again.
thing's just not for you.
No. Not unless. Well, I mean, let's just say this: if I really go off the grid, if you see me with a shaved head, it's time to be afraid because now I've gone so completely tactical. I mean,
the ninja really is coming out.
It's like it is the apocalypse. It is the apocalypse. Let's see. There's a reason why you get no views. LMAO. Oh, this would be a gun control advocate here. Well, look. Actually, that was on the YouTube thing. We will hopefully be remedying this. But one thing I do have is a signal problem, so we'll get that. So you can hate her all you want, but once again, you took the time to come back for the fourth time to try and take a jab. So now you're famous because you were mentioned. But again, if you want to argue the point, you should argue the point. If you can't argue the point and you try the typical tactics, I suppose that maybe unsettle others, you will only find yourself being embarrassed. And not only that, the following that I do have, when they do see you, they'll eat you alive. And I won't even have to do anything. It's like I have a number of people to handle my lightweight. It's, if a Girl Scout comes up threatening to take me out, I'm not going to engage that. But I will allow the head Girl Scout, that deals with these things to handle it. So, whatever your brownies are, you can win some points. But I will say this: you should be careful because it's not your regular little thing. And trolling doesn't really benefit you in the way that you would think. But nonetheless, we'll get back to trolls as an example. You do have people who are that, I guess, for that older generation that doesn't quite understand it sometimes, that Matthew Broderick war games. They're just trying to hack into stuff because it's cool to do. But that seemed pretty mild and innocent compared to the malicious nature that you deal with in a lot of instances, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We're worlds beyond. Yeah. We're worlds beyond that.
And that's the trouble, is that you have people who want to do things that you can anticipate, like steal money, right? You got to protect your money because there's people who want to rob you. But then you have people who want to do things and it makes no sense because there's no benefit to them. It's just malicious for the sake of being malicious. Somebody wants to create a program that it disables your system, and maybe they did it for somebody else down the road, but somebody else passes this on, somebody else modifies this, or it just continues to be spread around, and they feel like they're famous in the nerdy world of hackers because they're the ones responsible for shutting down 2/3 of San Francisco or something.
That's a large element of it, is the people who just want to do it just for the name recognition and just to say they did something that they believe is a cool thing to do.
Right.
And that's a serious threat, and that's a big risk. Those are risks that tend to focus towards infrastructure, right? Shutting down mass transit, dealing with street lights, and that sort of thing. From businesses and for people, it's more of there's a larger monetary risk.
Okay.
People aren't really going after businesses just for the sake of shutting down the business.
Right.
They're going after businesses and people for the sake of getting your money, extorting you for that money, hijacking your data. We've seen a lot of these they're called the crypto locker viruses, where they encrypt all of your data and you don't get your data back until you pay them $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000.
Right.
So the money aspect is really, it's a large aspect for that the outside attackers are going after.
Okay.
The other side of that isn't so much that the outside attackers are going after you, the individual, or a particular business for what that business has, but they're just trying to look to use you as a shelter under which to do their malicious activities against a larger target.
Okay, that was the best thing. When you explained this to me the other day, that was the best thing I'd heard, because I'm thinking, I'm a small business guy.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to want to, well, small for now, I suppose, but besides, unless somebody knows you and has a malicious acts, right? How are they going to do this? And there's not that many people in the area that I know of that have the capability. It doesn't matter, because someone else may not be targeting you specifically. They may not even care about you individually.
Yeah.
But once they can infect your system, your network, now that becomes an exponential increase in the power of whatever their agenda happens to be, because your computer, your stuff works for them.
Exactly. And it works for them using the resources that you're not using for your daily work. So you don't realize that your computer is doing things for somebody else.
Initially, maybe, but I've always seen somebody, I saw this happen a few times. You don't notice it going on until it's really saturated, and then you start to see things slow down inexplicably.
So a lot of times what happens is, in these situations, is a bad guy will attack, let's say they'll break into 1,000 businesses,
right,
and homes as well. And their program sits and waits and doesn't do anything, and it may not do anything for several months. But then on a particular day at a particular time, all of these machines that are now under the control of the bad guy, they rise up, so to speak, and they simultaneously attack the intended target. So if the intended target is to shut down a bank, well, now that bank has 1 million computers that all of a sudden are attacking that bank at one time. But it may have taken a year for the bad guy to break into those 1 million computers and put his code there and just let it sit idle until they decided to launch that attack.
Well, as I say this, here's the thing that gets me.
Yeah.
All right, so you get that concept, but still people are going, well, I haven't had anything in place, and I haven't had any problems. Well, you don't know if you haven't had any problems, and that still doesn't motivate people, because there's this doubt. Well, I don't know.
Right.
All right, simple this. So you can take it, IT, why is it important to you, and people that don't have it. And I'm talking to myself. I'm telling you things that I've concluded, so I don't want you to think like, well, I had this worked out all along. I had to ask him questions, and I said, hey, I'm going to be honest with you, this is my reaction on stuff, and he explained it to me. The thing I've come across that, the shutting down the bank, yes, those are all things that are real. But what's even more realistic is the people stealing identity for fraud and mass numbers. So whatever you have may be sitting there collecting data on you, trying out your passwords, getting access to certain things, and then it doesn't happen for you may not see the results of it for a long time. Then it may remove itself at some point in time. I mean, I've seen things where they, so that they can hide the evidence of it having been there, which makes it even more difficult to find. And so then all of a sudden you do a check one day and find out that there's 15 people using your name and social security number and have taken out loans or credit cards, maybe charged $500 before they were stopped, but enough of that happening, your credit is shot.
Yeah.
And if you think that that's an easy fix, well, I didn't do it. You should be able to prove that. Yeah, well, not that easy. People have spent years and enormous amounts of money trying to get things off their credit that they had no responsibility for whatsoever. And so, I mean, it's tough. It's tough. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you take these things for granted, there is an affordable way. It's a cost of doing business that you have these. But it's not just business. I want to stress this for everybody. Individuals. You put a lot of stuff on your personal computer. Sure. You work for somebody else, you get a paycheck. You think, why would I have to worry about it? It's important. And you can do better in many instances, I think, with monitoring and other services that you have. It's a monthly thing, so you don't have to buy $20,000, $10,000, $5,000 worth of software. Right. You can have a very small monthly fee, which is something that was new to me. I mean, they didn't used to have that unless it was for large businesses.
It's increasingly getting focused.
Right.
So it's that service is trickling down to smaller businesses.
And as a personal computer, personal network, you don't need all the things, but it is nice to have somebody alerted if there's an attempt, and if there's, because it sounded very Terminator-ish, but there's systems that grow and that turn your computer, whatever it is, into, and if for nothing else, it is worth it so that you don't have the hassle, the hiccups, the freeze-ups, and the slowing of your computer because it's become now a drone for somebody else's stuff, and that's what gets me. But this Pratt Lathrop, again, if you want to know how to get a hold of him, I will certainly tell you, or you can message us here, you can email him, you can email me, you can Facebook, and certainly you can find him on Facebook, he's one of my Facebook friends. Yep. And you can send us a message on YouTube, so that'd be great. But please make it a point, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and at the same time, of course, hit the little bell next to the subscribe, because we'll transition more to that, and you'll be able to find that with greater frequency. It may be where I go until they work it out where they can simulcast too. But this does simulcast on Twitter, I do believe. So, and while I'm doing all this, I could share a few things too. So while I'm talking about it, but explain. All right, so we've gone through the basic big picture stuff.
Sure.
Like small business guy. And a lot of this, you wouldn't notice, it's not about erasing your hard drive, but it dramatically impedes your security for privacy, your employees' privacy, the people that you have as customers' privacy. You got to think about them too.
Exactly. And a lot of businesses have legal duties to protect their clients' information.
Right. And even if they don't know they do, as soon as you have a problem, you'll find out that you do.
Right, exactly. So it's not just about protecting, as a business owner, it's not just about protecting the data that runs in. What is your machine doing right now? How is it behaving right now? And do we have room to improve that performance? Just everything from general, non-specific, but just general slowness of the computer to specific applications aren't working correctly or running very well. And just making sure all of that is top-notch and up-to-date and optimized.
Well, I think that's great. I got to make sure not hit my mouse, because that would be the other thing that you have going on. But like as an example, I was asking you this the other day, and you were quite helpful. I said, what can I do to increase the performance of this broadcast stuff? So you went away, you researched the stuff, you came back, you got all these answers. And we may have another show on that as that goes on. But there's a wealth of benefit to having somebody like Pratt who can give you the advice. Because here's the thing, I'm a really informed person, I would say, considering. I don't have time to learn everything, even if, and many people would be in this boat, they're like, it's beyond, this is not my forte, right? Great, it's not everybody's forte. Even if it could be your forte, I don't have time.
Right.
I mean, I just literally, my learning curve would take me, I don't know how long to get caught up to where you are. If I isolated myself in a deprivation chamber and did nothing but hypnotize and read, but which I do with a cattle prod on many occasions, but that's typically for focused issues. So, but yes, it's unnecessary.
What you do with a cattle prod, man.
Yes, if I get a wrong answer. But no, it's unnecessary. And on top of that, even if I did all that, I don't have time to do that and do the other stuff I want to do. And thank goodness you think this is fun, because I don't. And I like to do things for a living that I think are fun. So, you want to have somebody that enjoys it.
Right.
I mean, it's why do you think they had like those, the guys who instituted the torture in the Gulag, former, people who were dentists, because they enjoy causing pain.
Yeah.
Anyway, but if you like it, then you're going to do an excellent job at it, and it's what you do. So, I mean, I tell you, if you have any kind of question, definitely ask him. He's full of advice. I'm full of BS. He's full of advice. So
some of mine's even helpful.
It might even be the answer that you want. So it's like my answer was, that I hope for is that, can we turn back the tide to the days in which when you bought a computer, I would like it to start off with everything on it that I needed. And some of them, I guess you can, but we went through this phase where you have to buy everything after the fact, and you don't just buy it really now.
Yeah.
You rent it each month.
So we're still at the days where the computer comes with everything you need, as long as you reset your expectations of what you need.
Ah, yes, that's
it.
so. And is there? Of course, here's the other thing too. I realized I should have talked to you. Well, but things have changed. When I bought this computer system, this is the other thing you learn. Unlike guns, which by the way are a great investment, I have not ever had a firearm do anything but surprise me as to how much it's appreciated, used or otherwise.
Yeah.
I've never been anything but dramatically disappointed when I find out what you can turn around and sell your laptop, tablet, or phone for after you pay the premium brand new price.
Yeah. It's like buying a car.
Or,
once you pull it off the lot, it just drops.
There's only one thing worse than buying a boat as far as depreciation goes. Because buying a boat, brand new, but it does come with a warranty. I mean, there is a trade-off. When you get something new, if it doesn't work right, and you bought it from a legitimate, that's why I only advertise for people who give you the super customer service. You can get it fixed. Yeah. But, I mean, laptops, it's like, boom, value gone.
Yeah, sure.
You could buy somebody else's, but you better know who they are really well because... I mean, I did well. I bought a DJ's former laptop one time, and it was one that he'd been taking to the clubs and using for mixing music, and it was pretty good for the 5 years ago, whenever. That thing lasted for like 3 years, and it probably still was fixable, but I only paid $200 for it, and it, brand new, it was like a $2,000 laptop.
Yeah.
And of course, it was about 3 years old at the time. It's time to update. I still have it. I mean, I don't know what I could do with it. Put it to a museum at some point in time, but getting the right system to begin with can save you a lot of money.
Sure.
And that's another consultation aspect of what an IT expert like Pratt Lathrop can bring to you. That means a heck of a lot to me because, I mean, there are changes in technology that make a significant difference that happen so soon. It was outside of my learning curve.
Yeah.
And by the time I've already committed money, it's too late, and you can't take it back to go and exchange it for something that might have been $50 more, $100 more, but was well worth the improvement.
Or just even the timing on when you buy.
Yeah.
You know, for example, we had this beginning of this year, 2 major exploits for processors: Intel processors, AMD processors, ARM processors. Every computer after 1995 is affected by these security flaws, considered by many to be the most significant security flaws ever found. Every computer's affected.
Wow.
So Intel is now working on a fix, but and the other manufacturers are as well. But for one of these fixes, Intel has said there's not going to be any permanent fix for this flaw on their processors. There are other ways to deal with it, but the question is, do you now want to buy a computer today, which is going to have one of these processors that has this flaw, which, by the way, is serious flaws, where it exposes passwords and security risks here. Or do you wait, let's say, 6 months to see if Intel has a fix baked into their new processors that are coming out in 6 months or so?
Yeah.
So if you can wait 6 months, it probably makes sense to wait on buying.
Yeah.
If you just don't need to buy today, wait and let's see what Intel can do to finalize the fixes on these processors. Things like that I think a lot of people aren't aware of.
Well, and like when I got this I thought it was a good deal anyway. I was told it was a good deal by another techie person. It was $500 cheaper if you bought it and could wait for it. Hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
So now, after about 3 months, it probably dropped back down to that same price, but I needed one soon, and I only had to wait like 2 weeks, so it wasn't bad. Yeah. But, you know, there's, and of course I'm going to talk to you about what I can do to expand or improve, maximize the performance of this before I have to buy a second computer, which I can see coming already down the road. I filled up 2 very large passports with photography editing, and I've gone through. That's another thing too. How do you clean up your system? Because there's a lot of wasted space people have all over there. I need to do that. But I've gone through and I tried to delete as many duplicates or bad photos or not great photos to make room. Somehow I've filled it right back up again. Probably taking 42.2 megapixel photos each time. But yes, I mean, I'm going to have to expand again. I realize that I've got 2 solid state passports and one that's an old hard drive that probably not the safest thing to, because you have actual moving parts you got to worry about. I'm going to go get what's the biggest passport they have? Like 2 terabytes or something like that?
3 now for sure.
What are those running, like $800?
No, but they're a couple $100.
That's it?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, all right.
But for you, we're going to set something special up for you.
Yeah.
I've got plans for you.
I like this. Anytime there's something special, then that's what we need. Because, again, now, I'm not dealing officially or publicly or on this software or hard drive with Super Ninja Spy International type stuff. But when you have photographs of people that are once-in-a-lifetime moments, you're doing a wedding or an alien spacecraft landing. Oh, that was that's the stuff I don't have on this. But right. But people pay you big amounts of money for photos, and it's not just about refunding money. You have people who you don't want. If you enjoy what you're doing as a photographer, you don't want to let them down. I mean, this is their graduation. This is their child's bar mitzvah. You want to make sure that you have these files. These are images or video secure, because even if somebody gets in there unintentionally and it corrupts these things, now you've got a problem.
Right.
And you can't afford to print all these out as a hard copy. I mean, that's expensive, for your own benefit. You want to keep these things, and you've got to do editing and other stuff too. So having a system that he can make a recommendation for, hugely beneficial.
Yeah. So speaking of that, right? Yeah. Lost data, corrupted data. Yeah. Number one, pop quiz. Number one reason why data gets corrupted. What? Do you know, or is lost?
I don't know.
Come on, take a guess. You've got viruses, you've got hackers.
Somebody accidentally deletes it.
That's exactly right.
Man.
That's exactly right. Number one reason why businesses, or people, but businesses in general, need to rely on a backup solution is because an employee in the business, some end user, accidentally or intentionally, maliciously corrupted, deleted, changed, modified the data. A lot of people think, well, viruses cause data, and yeah, they do. A lot of people think hackers break in, and yeah, they do. But the number one reason is somebody inside the business with legitimate access to the data makes a mistake or does something maliciously.
Man.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam Stern, for joining us, by the way. Tony Sanchez and all the rest of you as well who have. Yeah. I think I know what the number two reason would be.
Okay.
I would have guessed number one, but I didn't want to say this right off the bat. Porn. Because it seems to me, at least for a period of time, almost everybody's exposure to a virus came from what they thought was opening up a file of porn or surfing,
So that was true years ago. Not so much the case anymore. What's happened?
Porn cleaned up their act.
They did. So what's happened is the porn industry.
No more virus.
The porn industry is
not running a low-grade fever anymore.
The porn industry is one of the largest industries running on the internet. It's, if not it's like the second. It's the largest industry on the internet, and they realized that if they want to maintain that money coming in, they have to provide a safe environment. So the porn industry does a lot to make sure that the videos they're sharing really are cleaned of viruses.
Well, I mean, I guess that would be like really, everybody kind of having to police themselves. I mean, there's exactly a bazillion porn sites out there. It's like, I don't know, this was a couple of years ago, but still it holds true, as ridiculous as it is now. It was then. I had a guy, he goes, I invested, tried to diversify, don't tell anybody, but I started a porn site.
Yeah.
Now he wasn't in it. He's just like...
He's an investor in
this. You pay a certain amount. And I go, there's free porn all over the place now. He goes, but, they don't get the full-length stuff. And okay, I'm not saying you can't. I don't know. I haven't really gone into it to that degree. Yeah. But I do know from, osmosis of exposure to information that it is a highly competitive business. There's a bazillion people that thought, I'm going to open up and make money with it. But because of this, though, there is, like you said, a lot of self-policing as well as industry policing. And here's the other thing that just amazed me on a side note. They ought to have the best internet security ever because they can afford it. I mean, do you realize, I didn't realize this, just as we're bringing it up, they make far more money than Hollywood every year. Like, Hollywood looks like the poor orphaned cousin. That's what poor urchin. A poor orphaned cousin of Hollywood compared.
Their overhead is low. The overhead is dirt cheap. They need to rent a house and pay a couple actors.
Except that now, the only place they really pay it, I guess, is in digital editing because they want. But I mean, the industry itself. This doesn't include the homegrown whatever stuff that's out there and all the rest of that. But the industry itself is like hundreds of billions. It's ridiculous. It's I forgot what the quote number was, and I should have looked this up, but I was surprised. It was substantially more money every year than what all the blockbuster movies and everything else in Hollywood that goes to the regular non-tissue issuing theaters do every year. I mean, it was just.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a big business.
You don't see it unless you go to look for it, really, and yet it's everywhere. And Pee Wee Herman apparently, was on the inside track years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's man. I mean, but there, just like that, there's things that are that huge that are going on that we're unaware of. You can only imagine now. Everything is so diversified, and I say because whether you're marketing or advertising, it's not the way it used to be. It used to be, man, you came up with something pretty cool, and that was the hardest part because there were 3 channels. If you got 3, in a lot of places in the country, they only got 2.
Yeah, yeah.
And we actually had 4 channels, but the PBS came in so horribly that it didn't really count. And my grandparents' house, or you had to move the rabbit ears to such an extent to get that PBS channel that you couldn't get the others good. So you didn't oftentimes want to go to that extent, and you missed great things like Masterpiece Theater and whatnot. But anyway, that said, now we have it's not an exaggeration, 500 channels, and nothing's on. That's the thing. 500. Well, a number of them is duplicate. 14 HBOs that are different time zones, and if you get the dish. Or if you get the regular cable service, whether you get Grande or the other guys, there's all of that. Plus, there's everything that's on your phone or everything that's on your laptop. There's subscriptions. There's free stuff. There's chats. It used to be that
it's everywhere.
Yeah, if you couldn't reach somebody on the phone while they were near it, there wasn't even an answering machine. It wasn't that long ago. It wasn't that long ago. And we've radically moved now where the competition for attention is so huge. And I will say this too, there's stuff when it comes to parental control. What are your kids being exposed to and how they're being exposed to it? Yeah. This has now gone into a new realm that unless you're probably a parent in your late 20s, you either don't have the maturity to appreciate it or you're not young enough to understand what it is, because I believe strongly the evidence will, I think, reinforce this down the road that children with their ADD or their attention issues, it is a product of the saturation and stimuli that they have going on at any one given moment in time.
Sure.
Where they're able to get texts. Nobody really calls anybody anymore, but that's a possibility. Your phone could ring, but you get texts, tweets, Hangout comments, Messenger, Facebook Messenger, Snapchat. You got posting comments that you're checking out stuff. All the different social media platforms, Instagram, you got to keep up with. And they're as concerned, and this is the thing about it, the youth are often as concerned about making sure that they have the following and the popularity as if they have a product to sell.
Right.
But everybody wants to be the Paris Hilton famous for being famous. And so it is a time-consuming thing, but even for fun, there was a study where they were bragging about how kids could multitask today. And yet, even in this whole thing, it amazes me when 20 or 60 Minutes, they do this thing to draw you to this conclusion that it's wonderful, but if you pay attention, they illustrate that there are some real issues that are developing. You can't have a child sit down and learn, or a young person, who has been inundated with stimuli, visual, audio.
People need to focus.
And multi,
They're not going to do it well.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you can get some things done, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's times where I like to hear some music playing while I'm doing something else. Yeah. Or I may be editing photos or video, and I want to hear a television program because I can switch back and forth between the two. It's noise,
But at any given time, you're really focusing on one of those.
One thing's right.
You're really only focusing on one of those.
And I mean, but the multiple conversations or communication going on simultaneously with your attempt to learn or write papers is not good for the long-term ability to deep focus, to truly have that inspirational idea or that innovative concept as you're working in things when you've collected enough experience to hit that point. And that happens at different ages too, because a healthy, strong focus at 12, if you're a genius, might have you writing things like Mozart. Or today, it may not be as dramatic because you don't get that deep of focus. Yeah. Anyway, but things like what your kids expose themselves to, what they can use at what times, you have that power as a parent now. It's not that complicated, because when you have somebody that can show you what software to get or how to do that, then it's just a matter of pushing a a button and clicking on a window. So that's what I like about it, because I don't want the accidental, my child found, bestiality porn somewhere, trying to make it as bad as possible, but whatever.
But there's a range of things, and there's there's times when it's okay to just play games on the computer,
sure.
And there's times when it's not okay, and you really just got to be doing your homework. So for parents to be able to unlock that or to lock that up and say, look, you can't go visit these websites during these hours, or until I authorize you to be able to go visit those websites or do these things. Yeah, giving parents that control is important.
And also, it's not giving you the control where, look, kids are always going to be more technologically savvy than parents in most cases. Sure. Because, look, I've seen children before mess with a phone and figure out how to do stuff others didn't know how to do. Not me. Others. And then it's amazing. It's amazing how quick kids with touchscreen technology take to it like that. I mean, it's just like, and memorize passwords and other such stuff too. So, I've seen it before where they're sneaky. They act like they don't know, like they didn't pay attention.
And all of a sudden,
boom, you can't get into this phone, no problem, boom, 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 they know the password. Yeah. So don't be fooled by children's innocence. And I don't know why. I remember when I feigned like I didn't know what was going on or wasn't listening, so my parents would keep talking about whatever it was they didn't really want me to be privy to, but thought I was, parents, if they're walking around and communicating, they are listening to everything that's going on. I don't care how much they ignore you or pretend like they don't hear you. There's times when that may be the case, but you're never going to know. And you can always, and should safely assume, they're paying attention to what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So you need to have something that is foolproof. Not like the governors they used to put on some people's cars, which was always... Never had that put on my car, thank goodness, but I feel for the humiliation of others who did. But guys learn how to be real savvy. It's not that difficult to take a governor off, by the way. And you take it off, And that was everybody's question. How did they put that on there? The most important question is, how do you get it off?
Right.
And so if you don't have something that has some sophistication and security with you, then, you're just leaving it up to them to remove it, and then now you've got problems. Used to be, it was limited to what a phone call could be. Because there's always we discovered the phone sex line. Now you discover something that is much more insidious, because even before puberty hits in, where that becomes something that they could charge enormous amounts of money. That's what these guys started investing in porn sites are hoping for. Some prepubescent 15-year-old who has a credit card number and thinks that this is only going to be a small thing. But now it's everything. I've seen kids lured into it with, you pay another $1, something like that, and you can get to another level in the game, or you can get plug it, and before it's not just a one-time thing, they tell you, but it's hidden, you start incurring these charges. And
the kids often don't realize what they're doing.
Right, they don't.
The parents have the credit card tied to the telephone. They've got the game for the kid on the telephone. The game says, do you want more credits, or do you want superpowers, or do you want whatever? The kid says yes, not realizing they're charging $2.99 to the parents.
Right.
And then another yes, another $2.99, another yes, another $2.99. And it just keeps going. The kid just thinks he's getting his superpowers or his extra coins or whatever.
Right.
And at the end of the month, the parents have a several $100 phone bill, which happens. There have been cases. That's why now iPhones and Android phones have the ability to lock out or require you to enter your password before you do something that charges a credit card, to make sure that you really are serious about that charge.
And there's a thing, I saw this on a Key and Peele skit, I believe. If you watch Key and Peele. If not, you should. That's my endorsement for good humor. Hilarious. These guys, liberals, and on the other side of the political aisle, I don't agree with them politically, but I appreciate good humor. Yeah. And I'll say that to everybody. It's like, Ellen, don't agree with her politics at all, but I'm sure we'd get along as long as we didn't talk about politics. Hilarious, right? Okay. So, but this was the thing that got me. And I've had this happen. What if you have somebody that has access to you, your person? Mm-hmm. You think that the fingerprint thing is it is convenient, instead of having to type in a code all the time, or numbers, or whatever it may be, or the retina scan, or the facial recognition. But guess what? If you're asleep and somebody can put your finger on your phone, now they have access to everything. And if you happen to be in a relationship with a crazy lunatic, evil type of person, now you've got problems. And facial recognition, they can still hold the phone up to your face while you're asleep.
Well,
there's some of those security things that they've had. Now, I haven't had the full-blown laser eye scan thing like Mission Impossible. Do they have those yet?
Not for phones.
Not on phones.
Not for phones. I mean, I can't speak to what they've got going on at the Pentagon.
Sure.
But,
right,
but for phones, no. But, speaking of facial recognition, Apple came out with their iPhone 10, and it's supposed to have this great facial recognition capability. Come to find out, they didn't do such a great job of testing it for people of Asian descent.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of Asian people or people of Asian descent who can unlock each other's phones. Now, you and I have Caucasian descent. It's a pretty strong security feature. It works pretty well. But there's a whole group of people, and I think even they had some issues too with people of African descent and others. So now Apple's being called out as being racist for not really fully testing across their scope. They did a good range of testing. I'm sure they tested people of all sorts of ethnicities, but facial recognition really is not where it needs to be for everybody to say it's safe.
It is not a good thing when your phone says you all look alike to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that would be bad. I'm going to close our window real quick because the sun has now come up, which is great if I was going to be out there taking pictures, but it's a little harsh as it is right now. We're going to have some professional lighting though too, by the way, and this is where my expertise comes in. Pratt will make sure we have all the technology going, but I've got some ideas for some lighting, and it's not that bad either as far as the expense goes, but. We'll be broadcasting from here. I'm actually gonna follow through and do my office up, right? So we'll have that place, and then we'll be on location for some of this stuff as well. Because I mean, seeing some of the stuff you're talking about is I think beneficial and advantageous, and we're going to develop with this. So please make it a point, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and encourage others to do the same thing. That way we can more effectively, and I believe with greater ability, certainly with greater ability and greater financial profitability for me. I'll share with you how it works if we get the YouTube thing going.
Yeah.
Whereas Facebook, we certainly appreciate the convenience of it and the rest of that, and we'll broadcast here. But if anything, they're going to make you pay to access the organic network of people that I have built over since 2006 when I started having a Facebook page. It only says 2008 because I think I killed one and started another one at some point in time. But I know I had Facebook before I had a YouTube channel. And my YouTube channel goes back to 2006. So somewhere right in there, maybe, I don't know, it's a long time ago. But it's been many years, and many of you guys following along and doing other such stuff. You're only getting access now, I believe, to about 26% of your organic connection. And there was a huge drop in 2016, 56% reduction in that 1 year, meaning the people that used to show up, and it doesn't matter what order it is, they used to show up. And that's where I think Facebook and some other who may subscribe to this, Facebook being the most evil of the evil empire, I think. I feel like they're lying to me because there's no reason why that if you've gone through everybody who's in your feed who's posted something new that maybe your top 10 friends, that everyone else can't come in some sort of subsequent order. Even though it may be impractical for me to ever get to somebody who hasn't posted in 3 months, or posted, let's say they haven't posted in a week. I got 5,000 friends, 1,800 followers. Eliminate the followers as somebody who would show up in my news feed. But, I mean, you would think, okay, if somebody hasn't posted in 2 weeks, they're not. I would maybe never make it through unless they stayed up night and day going through the 5,000 feeds, because new people are going to continue to post other stuff too that would show up in order of they just posted. I should get to some, at some point in time I should. Facebook doesn't even let you do that now. They won't see your stuff unless they pay. It does, and that's what gets me. All right, so they don't have. Not everybody has 5,000 friends. If you've got 300 friends, which seems to be about an average common thing between 100 and 300, they should see everything that their 300 people are posting in whatever order when they post it. Right? How can you argue you don't have the ability to do that? I mean that I don't know. Is it possible they're telling the truth? If you could tell me. I
don't know the inner workings, of
their
what Facebook is doing.
Algorithms.
But I would say this. I would say that Facebook is a business.
Sure.
And they're very, very good at what they do. But no business is a business without generating revenue.
Yeah.
So whatever they're doing has the final objective of generating revenue for the business.
You said this, and I quoted you. Do you want to say it? Because it was like the best way of summing it all up.
I've said so many great things
It is true. I know. It's why we sit down, because standing is almost impossible for this amount of time under the enormous weight of our knowledge. But he said, look, everything's a business, whether you're selling a product or a service. And if you're not the product, if you're not paying for the product or the service, you are the product or the service. Yeah. And
the individuals,
I could accept that.
The users of Facebook, right? You and I, as people with Facebook accounts, and everybody who's watching this has a Facebook account, you are the product that Facebook is selling.
Right.
And that's the bottom line. And Facebook captures all this data about what you do, who you like, when you like, how you like, what posts you watch. Even if you don't like the post, do you still watch the video clip, or do you still? They capture all of this stuff about what you, as an individual, one of 7 billion people in the world, are doing, and they categorize you and they sell that data about you to other businesses that want to advertise to you specifically.
Right.
And Facebook doesn't just track what you're doing on their website. There are other websites that feed back into Facebook and tell Facebook what you've done on their website.
Right.
So it's anytime you see these websites that say log in with your Facebook account, what you're doing is you're saying, okay, I'm logging in with my Facebook account because that's easy. It's a one-click login type of deal. But now we can correlate your activity on this website to your specific Facebook profile.
Well, this is the thing too that gets me, and I wanted to see if I could pull this up on. I'll do that in a second, because obviously it's not the quickest thing to do. But okay, this is what I have a problem with when it comes to Facebook. I got that concept, even though you came up with the perfect analogy. I like the way you said it.
Well, I've stolen it from people smarter than me, but
I only steal from the best. Yeah. So you never know. Like Shakespeare stole from everybody, but he was the only one.
But he got published, right?
Who got published. So, we'll make sure and pratalize it or something there. But again, Pratt Lathrop, a friend of mine, I've known him for many, many years, IT, genii, an expert, but talking to you about some things that connect to everybody. Social media is also a part of what you need to take into consideration when it comes to security, when it comes to maximizing the benefit of whatever computer system you use for personal use or professional use. Now, he specializes in business, and that's where most of it goes, but still there may be a lot of things he can help you with. If you have there's a lot of hobbyists out there that are using powerful computers to facilitate their hobbies. And it's not just gamers. You have other people who are doing it for photography, videography. You have people who are doing it for social media, and have social media aside, what they call your side hack, where that's your thing. You're making some money off of it. You're growing it while you do another job or one of your multiple sources of income. But the thing I accepted that we were part of a market. That's what Facebook was doing, is that they had all these demographics in which people, when they wanted to advertise, could hit that. And you had larger pools of what you called influencers. I don't believe that we have traditional influencers on Facebook at all anymore. Because what it seems to me that they're doing is, unless you buy your influence, and you would buy that to have access to what you've already developed. The days in which you could go through a certain system of working through time and computer sweat equity to develop a large following are gone. You're not going to be able to do that anymore. They are not going to allow you to do that without paying to gain exposure and to solicit followers and friends and the rest of it. Now, you can maybe still get by with giveaways of a high enough value. If you are saying, hey, follow me, friend me, and share this, and now we'll put you into a running or a raffle for a motorcycle or whatever. But it's even got to be more substantial. Used to, you could do it with, I don't want to say a bottle of water, but you could do it with a lunch or a dinner or something like that, and that was enough because of the organic exposure. But it continues to go and go, and Facebook themselves acknowledge that eventually your organic reach, means the people that you already connected to because you extended an invitation and accepted it, or vice versa, will be zero unless you pay for it. So now what they've done is they've taken your volunteering, your information to be used for them to sell advertisement to it. Now you're having to pay them so that they can get paid from other people to use you. So you're not just trading or bartering yourself as part of a market. You're having to pay them to be used.
You're paying Facebook for the privilege to do hard work that benefits
If it's them. Correct. Yeah. And that to me is what gets me. Whereas with YouTube, the thing that impresses me is they're really, at least for the time being, still kind of using the model that Facebook started off with. In fact, they're encouraging you to make money for yourself and be successful because that benefits their larger picture. But Facebook is laughing, saying we had the highest revenue of any social media platform and the highest that we've had last year, sticking it to everybody who wants to either be popular or who wants to see the kind of results they did just a few years ago. How many of you have seen, and again, I'm sure maybe it happened somewhere, but I could get on a very popular post of a picture in 2014, 500, 600 likes. I would say a picture of me and my daughter beat out Chuck Norris, but not by much. Chuck Norris, I had like 600 and some odd likes. I think I got 700 with my daughter. I mean, that was organic. That was no paid anything. I don't believe you're going to get that today without boosting that post. Yeah. I mean, unless you...
Sure.
Even then, you think that if you have a public figure page or a page instead of a personal page on Facebook, you have people with 20,000 followers, right? If you look at what they are percentage-wise of how many likes they're getting from what they used to, if they've had it for a while, yeah, they may have 3,000 likes, but they have 100,000 followers, and that's really pretty small compared to what they were once able to do.
Right.
So, I mean, those numbers haven't changed that much. So Facebook's saying that they don't know how they're going to fix this, and it's an algorithm issue that they can't get around. To me, doesn't hold water. Because, yes, there are a lot more people on Facebook, but that doesn't mean that they are exponentially, they're the maxed out 5,000 personal page and 20,000 on which seems to be the big superstar average type on your public figure pages. So it's like, I prefer the way YouTube does it, but the trouble is, and this is where Facebook has the advantage, they're the ones that have the older demographics that finally have acquiesced and become somewhat familiar with them. The most familiar workings of any social media, across the country is with Facebook.
Sure.
So now they're taking that because there's always this hesitancy. People who don't have or have never subscribed to anything on YouTube, that's a lot of people. In fact, the biggest bulk of people on YouTube have used it to find stuff out. They use it as a resource, like they would Google. Yeah. I've used it like that for years.
Yeah.
I posted a few videos, but I mean, that was it. It was like I didn't put a lot into it. It's only recently that I've had to do a huge learning curve increase.
Right.
And then I realized there's a lot of people that don't get it because they don't have the time to get it, and it's not something that they're familiar with. They don't look over somebody's shoulder and see their coworker sneaking on Facebook and become interested or familiar with it. And there's got to be an exponential jet engine like effect. The more people that get interested in it, that are using it, the more people that will, the more familiar they'll be with it. But right now, there's that fear of, okay, here's another level of technology or something that I don't quite get. And, there's still a lot of people who don't like having to keep up with social media on a regular basis as it is.
Yeah.
They get that is not going to keep up forever because you've got a younger generation that was just, used to it. But if I did something else, like, I don't know that I would utilize it as frequently. It's like something I have to commit to in order to keep up. And then doing it as a job as well at the same time.
Right.
But, I mean, to me, it's no more, like, I wouldn't miss it if I did something else. Like if my whole job was magic tricks, I don't know, that would still be on social media too.
Like a magician?
Like a magician, right. Then I would treat that as like, that's the thing that you do. I enjoy things equally. Now, it's not as much fun as skydiving, but skydiving while, where other people
do that while you're taking your videos and you post them to YouTube, and
that is because I bet you
do that. There's a lot of skydiving videos.
Yes, there are, but could you be Facebook Live, YouTube Live while in free fall?
As long as you got a good connection. But at 20,000 feet, or however, I don't.
No.
5,000 feet.
Yeah. Okay. 20,000.
20,000.
I would have
oxygen halo jumps.
Right. I mean, I've jumped as high, like you said. I've jumped 18,000 feet. I jumped at 18,000, and that was only because we were supposed to do 14, and there was traffic. So you don't want to jump out, even though it's probably not going to be there. By the time you want to make sure there's plenty of clearing so that nobody hits the plane on the windshield. I don't want to be the bug in the windshield.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that yeah, I may have to go GoPro or something more compact. Because the phone would be great. I'm sure I could mount something.
Just
but
put it right in front of your eyes.
I'd want something inside a helmet though, because 120 mile an hour wind is really loud.
You get a GoPro
and
you jump out of that airplane, and then you post it later.
You could do that, but live would be.
The problem is the signal, right? You've got to have that. You've got to have your data connection. I don't think there's one.
12,000 feet.
I don't know. I don't know what the vertical range is, because I don't think most cell phone companies are.
Well, I know at 20,000
marketing to people who are driving their cars at 10,000 feet in the air.
No,
right?
but I will say this. Look, the car's going to be flying soon, so they're going to have to fix that.
Sure.
But I will say this. At 20,000 feet, you don't get a signal unless the plane, which they're doing now, because they realized this whole interfering with the pilot thing, it's a bunch of BS. Has been for a long time, right? And your plane didn't crash, or it's like somebody's quietly not saying anything to the NTSB during interviews with the survivors because they sent a text message.
Right.
That didn't work. It doesn't work that way. What it is an irritation while they're trying to get you to listen to announcements, or while people are trying to sleep, or other such stuff. And that's what they really should say. Be honest with us.
The safety protocol we all know anyway, which is really, if the plane goes down, you're dead.
True. Look, here's the thing, and this is an argument a lot of people have. Question: oxygen mask, come down. Your wife is disabled, or whatnot. She's been knocked unconscious. Do you put the oxygen mask on her first, or yourself first?
Well, they say I'm supposed to put it on myself first.
Yes, and you should, because as Vince Vaughn, I think, very well articulated in Four Christmases. How am I going to be any good to you if I'm unconscious? You're already unconscious.
But the time frame,
a 30-second time frame is not good.
The time frame too that you have to put on is seconds.
Yeah.
You don't have minutes to put yours on and somebody else's on.
Here's the other thing, and I say this. Where is it that this airplane has gone into space and it's in a vacuum now and there's no oxygen? Now, I get that the pressure in the chamber has gone, but I'm going to tell you as a skydiver, you may not be in as an oxygen-rich environment, but even at 20,000 feet, I'm not going. But again, I'm used to it a little bit more too. I went skiing and high-altitude stuff where they were telling people, be careful, you might get sick, and some other stuff like that. Never did. But I was used to going up and down, and you can be acclimated to breathing thinner air. If you're a smoker, you better put that thing on fast, though, because there's a world of difference. If you're a smoker and you don't run or you don't go to higher altitudes, you're not used to it. I saw a guy pass out one time, and he was doing a high altitude jump. Mm-hmm. Had oxygen on, but he took it off right before he was getting ready to go, and he had the big high end Canon, $3,500 at the time setup on, because you could see it, and you could see it go boom, fell down, fell out of the airplane. Luckily, though, he came to as he was in free fall. Yeah. He also had an automatic deployment device, or an ADD, so his reserve chute would have fired anyway if he hadn't slowed his descent by a certain altitude. But you still want to be conscious and not land completely limp, because you can break stuff that way. It's not safe, But luckily, he was okay. So I was a smoker, he said, and that was the thing, that he hadn't been to higher altitude before. It'll get you. You need to make it a point, though, to do what they say, because I've tested everything in skydiving. I tested out all my nightmares, and I've never had. Have you ever had the nightmare where you're on the outside of the plane, like a James Bond film, and you can't hold on and you fall? A lot of people.
No, not that specific nightmare. No.
You haven't had that one?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
I'll work on it.
All right,
tonight.
I will go through a number of dream scenarios that I can eliminate because of skydiving. It's a great thing. Now, I tied a tether between the permanent landing gear on a Cessna 182, so I was the first and only successful person who could climb out. By the way, you got 85 mile an hour winds at the slowest, so you're wearing a suit that's designed to catch a certain amount of air to control your free fall flight. So it wasn't the easiest thing, but I took the skin off the underside of my arm on the sandpaper skid plate traction on the step that we have before we exit the plane. Small price to pay for being able to hang underneath the plane for as long as I wanted to. It was actually more comfortable than just hanging from something with your own weight, because it's kind of getting you at an angle. Got a great view. I could turn upside down, put my feet on it. I climbed to the other side of the plane. I could climb up inside of the wing. I could hang upside down with my feet on the front edge of the wing above the strut. and do sit-ups. I mean, now they call it the Batman because you're letting the air pressure keep your feet hooked to the front edge of the airfoil or the wing of the Cessna. That took a little bit of technique, but everything else, I could be. I mean, it's like, all right, I have no fear. I could be in a situation like any James Bond film where I'm climbing on the outside of the corrugated or World War II German mass-produced plane and climb around to the tail on top of the... Now, granted, this is also a pilot not trying to get rid of me, just consistently flying along. But you could do that stuff. It is not just Hollywood. And even at a higher speed, I could have handled it. So, it's not... And then I never had those nightmares about falling off of an airplane where I was trying to climb out and do a James Bond thing.
Interesting.
So, yeah. I mean, but just all those sorts of stuff that you wonder, could you do this, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you go Facebook Live, and like we'll put a parachute on you too. We climb out on the outside of the plane.
You'd have to convince me to jump out of this airplane in the first place. I'm of the notion of like, what is it? Why would I jump out of a perfectly good airplane?
I have an answer for you. Because much like the media and its presentation of this ubiquitous demand amongst all youth for gun control, and it's not really the way it is, there is no perfect airplane. They all have problems, just undiscovered.
Sure.
And so there's nothing perfect about any airplane. In fact, at one point in time, I laugh to this day about this. And I had a good friend of mine, Donna Morgan, who her husband at the time was flying the plane. And we were getting ready to go do some skydiving. And a fire started. Smoke. It was an electrical fire because it was coming behind the dashboard. And Gary announces, all right, just let you all know that we got a little bit of a fire here. And I go, and it was getting a little bit bigger. And I turn to her and go, my God, what are we going to do? She goes, I don't know, I got a parachute on. I'm going to jump out of the plane. You can stay here if you want, but
I'm leaving.
I'm leaving. And I'm like, she goes, I think you got a parachute on too. I was like, damn straight, I do. I was like, what a stupid moment. We're there to jump out of a plane already anyway.
And now the plane's giving you a reason to jump.
Right. It's like, and now I have a real reason to jump out of a plane, and I turn and go, what do we do?
You just gotta hope that fires. You still have time to get to an altitude, though, right?
So, well, we were high enough. We were like,
high enough,
I remember our altitude was 8,000 feet, which is plenty high. I mean, you can jump out at 2, right? They call it a hop and pop. So, I mean, don't let the novelty of a situation cause you to lose focus of what you already know how to do. That is a pearl of wisdom. I can go back and write it down because that is true with so many things, especially. I will make other analogies to that. They're more appropriate as I have time to think that through. Good morning, by the way, Rose Mesa Harrison. And Rose, I swear, she's found the fountain of youth wherever it is. I don't know. It looks like she's aged a bit since 28. And Raymond Dale Jones, appreciate you tuning in. We've talked about some IT stuff and some skydiving stuff and some gun control stuff and just general how to be smarter about things, you know. And there's some new people who are discovering me where you need to be, which is subscribing to my YouTube channel because that's where everything's going to shift. And then you won't be able to see it for a while here because I want you to be on the YouTube thing. And it's easy to do. You can go to any one of the videos and you search Eric Von Wade on YouTube. You click subscribe. And then there's a little bell next to it. You click that because that will notify you whenever we go live. Mm-hmm. Pratt soon will have, a Q&A. Well, he's going to have a regular Q&A session with me. We're going to get him set up with his own YouTube channel as well. So if you want more in-depth type stuff for those people that go, I mean, I want to know how to use the software.
Okay.
And I want somebody like Pratt to take care of all the behind-the-scenes stuff because I don't want to be, not because I don't think it would be awesome to be that. I don't have the time. I mean, literally. Yeah. And we'll get into the how to be a success, how to do all this. I'm having the time of my life. So don't take me, don't mistake what I'm saying. I'm having the time of my life. But I'm going to tell you this. I have no spare moment throughout the day. And I probably eat up more time sometimes talking longer than I should have. But it's an investment in people. And you never want to forget to make that investment in people. It may be a short-term cause of your tardiness. Don't let it be as much as you can. But it's an investment in long-term success. And I'm telling you that right now. You farm relationships with people, and it will come back to you. Now, you don't want to be like a friend of mine. I don't want to mention his name, but it could take him 2 additional hours to go to the grocery store because he runs into somebody.
He knows everybody.
He knows everybody.
Yeah.
And so he's already farmed the relationship, but also you always want to leave him wanting more. And it's true in business. It's true in but it's also true in personal life. If you give somebody everything they want from you, then they're full, and it's like a Labrador Retriever that you allowed to become bored with retrieving by letting them do it too much before they were a year old. That's a golden rule for any retrieving dog. Until they're about 6 months old, I don't let them retrieve a ball more than once or twice a day. I don't let them have access to that tennis ball that they love so much, because I think they put like dopamine or something in that yellow dye. They love tennis balls. I don't let kids come over and play with them with a tennis ball until after they're a year old. And that's tough for some people to do, but if you want to have a house dog that's also a great field dog, then you've got to create a drive to retrieve that does not become old and then it's your job, because my chocolate lab would retrieve until he literally fell over, which is dangerous in the heat because they can overeat and kill him.
Yeah.
So, but that's the kind of drive you want. So it's you who needs to manage, their conditioning and the rest of it. And so, same thing with people though. Don't overgive them too much, as then they take you for granted. I mean, sometimes you can't avoid this. The people who know me the closest never watch any of my shows or listen to my radio. They get it all the time. So I started telling them, I'm not going to tell you everything. But that's it's one of those realities of life. Don't try to answer every question, give every bit of everything away the first time that you meet somebody or every time you see someone. You'll have another opportunity. It's not the end of the world. Prioritize. First most important thing, second most important thing. Keep a third on the reserve. Whatever it is that you're going to talk to them about. So I'm going to go because it's about that time, and I carried you way long. I'm sorry about that.
We're good.
But I got to talk to you too about some other stuff after this, because I'm gonna make an investment today in some upgrades, I believe. But I was going to talk to you first, so I don't waste money. Do I need to increase the RAM on my hard drive? Do I need to increase hard drive size?
We have a long way to go if that's the question you're asking. Yeah.
Do I need to increase RAM and get a larger hard drive?
Right.
And what kind of hard drive should I get? And, we have solid state hard drives out there. We have other stuff. We can talk about that next time.
Sure.
And in addition to that, we're going to talk about what does your processor speed have to do with what anybody does on a regular basis on their computer. Those are things that I should take notes of, but we can refer to the video later. And, of course, make it a point. Share this, please, if for no other reason, because you're sticking it to the man. And the man in this case is the liberal organization for Facebook. And yet we still appreciate them, and they could be a worthy adversary the moment they start letting me have access to all of you who I've made friends and network connections with over 24 years, and stop trying to suppress my Second Amendment constitutional rights or the business that I've set up selling cutlery simply because we have knives, and some people can use knives for bad things even though it's overwhelmingly used for good. And California and New York are two states that think they're saving people from crime by having knife regulation. Yeah. That they won't allow me to advertise to you or anyone else in the overwhelming majority of middle America. The snotty, superficial juveniles that are in a desperate and hopeless pursuit of proving their worth in life because they can abuse their privilege and control over political issues on social media like Facebook. You'll stick it to them for no other reason. It's that good. And then I'm going to decide whether to grow long hair and embrace my Cherokee ancestry or get a haircut. And the haircut is seeming like the answer here.
I'm rooting for crew cut. I know you're against it, but I'm rooting for crew cut.
Here's the thing, and I say this, when it's cold and I comb all this stuff back, boom, it's an insulator underneath my hat, and it makes a huge difference. I've noticed it, because you lose the majority of heat through your hands, feet, and head, by the way. You could be almost naked, and I've done this, with a cowboy hat on, boots, and gloves. And not only does it benefit you in certain circumstances and situations if you're in shape, but you're amazingly comfortable. Mm-hmm. Now, everybody else around you
is a little weirded out,
unless it's just one person and she's female, and. So on that note, we're gonna go, and because this is where I could go into a whole other 2 hours of talking if I don't stop myself. I've got a ton of things to say. Once I get in the zone, I'm there. Please share this and subscribe. The YouTube subscription is the most important thing, if you please don't mind. And also make sure somebody vacates a table or two at the Richard Borchard Regional Fairgrounds for this weekend Saxon exhibition show, and that way I can have a table, or if you want to give up a table, more than welcome. I want to get in on the show, and I've got a great new bit of inventory. If you like knives, I've got tons of stuff coming. Big ones, small ones. I've got a lot of smaller knives coming in. And by the way, I'm custom designing some modifications to the karambit knife, which is, strangely enough, we still in this global society, I'll say this real quick, and we're going to see all sorts of issues like this in everything we talk about. We are now, it doesn't matter, Germany, Japan, wherever, we can connect like that.
Yeah.
but there's still barriers that really don't give us the same equal, consistent exposure to every country in the world like you theoretically think we should have. I mean, it's like only time I get invitations from people 99% of the time from any other country besides the United States, Puerto Rico, maybe, and Canada, it's a scam. But yet I can search out people in Ghana or Germany or wherever else, but 9 out of 10 times it's a scam, right? But this knife is the most common design in the majority of the world. But it is it's still somewhat of a novelty in the United States. I mean, maybe you've seen it, but you haven't seen them everywhere like you would the traditional pocket knife. Why? Because this is the most effective cutting tool. Carpet knives, we see people who lay carpet using a design like this. But isn't it amazing that this is the most popular utilitarian work knife design in the world? And it's only been popularized here in the United States for carpet layers and martial artists. Because it has a lot of self-defense tactics and techniques applicable to it. But that just goes to show you there is still an isolation and a disconnect that's being reinforced by this internet and technology that's supposed to have us so globally connected. We're so close in some ways and still so separate in many others that you tell people this, they don't believe you. This is the most common knife design. Just like we wouldn't realize that what is the most common name in the world? Actually, what's the most common name in the world?
I have no clue.
Muhammad.
Yeah.
Yes. Everybody would say John. I mean, some people are a little bit more savvy. This question's been around a while.
Yeah.
But, so we're going to find out what the real answers are without the bias of what we've been limited to in our exposure. And that's what I'm doing. So if you don't know who I am yet, please take an opportunity to find out either how much you can't stand me and still want to find out what new levels of irritation I can take you to, loathing and so forth, or, again, how much you can find out that it's really, it's not that bad. Eric Von Wade is the kind of infection you like to spread around.
Yeah, that's it. I have no way to respond to that.
Well, sometimes it's better just not to.
Yeah.
Nothing really, the fear of some negative reaction doesn't really happen unless you endorse what I'm saying. Sometimes it's just best to smile, and that's what I would recommend you do anyway. This Eric Von Wade guy could be really great exposure.
Smile and nod.
But be careful before you say yes to something, right? Nodding may even be troublesome. You may want to go... I do what's the most common sign of approval in the world? You'd think it would be like the nonverbal. Yeah, no, it's this. Because that's what they do in India. That is the yes. You see them doing it, and it looks like, I'm not so sure, but that is it's side to side is the nodding of yes in Indo-Asia. So, learning new things all the time. All right, peace, whatever, make good choices. It's not just a cliche phrase. We'll have personal improvement, bodybuilding tips as I start working out more, and a few other things too. So hang in there with us, and yes, we are going to have giveaways. So we're going to go mobile on a regular basis. I think we'll be riding around with Green & Go cabs, and so if you find us, there are cash prizes and other such things, as well as I want to do a taxi cab confession. So I may pre-record some stuff.
Nice.
Like I shouldn't be the taxi cab driver because we'll never get where we need to be. I will take us to work because if I'm having to do something else, it's not. I drive to work. Maybe midnight coming back from the club, but if somebody doesn't say, "Hey, we're going home," remember that I'll be fine to drive, but I will drive to work. But yeah, we'll do taxi cab confessions. Get people to talk about intimate things and then put it on YouTube. But
sure, what could possibly go wrong with that?
That sounds like it would be great, right? I mean, it's maybe I will be lucky enough to be there while somebody decides to call a cab to get away from a bank robbery. They did that one time, and I'm like, Dan Stifle, my buddy who owns and operates Green & Go Cabs, has seen it all. Somebody left an AT4 Heat in the back of the cab one time, and the cab driver, ironically enough, did not know who brought it in the cab. He's like, I didn't see him bring it in. It's like this long. So I would have taken it home, taken it off his hands. All right, well, we'll talk to you soon. Appreciate that, and make good choices. Have a happy life, and we'll see you tomorrow, 6 to 9, somewhere in that ballpark to get started. We'll eventually be right on the money, and an additional recorded this and that as well we'll put up. You never know when it may go live, so please subscribe, but it won't be so much that it's irritating. And I may be the only thing you subscribe to. That's good enough. And so as soon as I figure out how to do this more effectively, we will be doing it with even greater slickness and so forth. I think I can just hit the X and we'll close out of YouTube. And yes, I'm sure I want